Hello, it's Rebecca and today is another book review day and this is my 26th book that I've been reading for the 2016 BookaShelf Reading Challenge. I will leave a link down below in the description box to explain what the challenge is about, but it's basically to read 26 books over the year with each book coming from a different category, and each category is alphabetised, so the book that I've been reading comes from the category of M, a book with a month in the title. So I have been reading 10th of December by George Saunders. So I will read you the blurb and talk to you about the book. George Saunders' most wryly hilarious and disturbing collection yet, 10th of December illuminates human experience and explores figures lost in a labyrinth of troubling preoccupations. A family member recollects a backyard pole dressed for all occasions. Jeff faces horrifying ultimatums and the prospect of darkened flocks in some unusual drug trials. And Al Rooston hides his own internal monologue behind a winning smile that he hopes will make him popular. With dark visions of the future riffing against ghosts of the past and the ever-settling present, this collection sings with astonishing charm and intensity. So, first of all, yay! It's my final book. It's the 26th book. I've read all 26 for this challenge, which is absolutely brilliant. But I didn't enjoy it, which is quite sad. I've been leaving this one because it was the only book that I could find that I had with a month in the title. I probably could have looked for something else at the library, but I wanted to try and read some of the books that I already owned. So that's why I chose it for this category. And I like short stories and I like strange characters and weird settings and things. But unfortunately, I couldn't really get into any of these, apart from one, which I will talk about in a little while. But I always know whether or not a short story collection has been successful is whether or not I can actually remember anything about any of the stories once I've finished it, because they're little snippets and they're short things, and if you can't really remember them, have they really kind of stuck in your head? And yeah, sadly, and I'm not saying they're bad and I'm not saying they're badly written, but just for me, they didn't stick in my head, apart from one which I found quite interesting and disturbing. It seemed like a futuristic story where people were, I think from what I can gather, and I may be wrong, so do correct me, they are in prison, they're criminals, and they've been put forward for drug trials, and they get injected with drugs that make them tell the truth, they get injected with drugs that make them fall in love, and it's a really interesting look at the human psyche and the way people behave. Because to start with, it sounded like they were robots and they were kind of training robots or programming robots to behave in a certain way. But as you read on, you found out that they were real people and they've been injected with all of these different types of drugs to get them to do different things and have different behaviours and different feelings. And I quite like that, because people are strange things, and watching what people do and looking at them kind of through a microscope is quite interesting, and even more so when you saw what they did and what they said and how they behaved after taking all of these drugs. So that story, and if I can find what it's called, bear with me, talk among yourselves. Escape from Spiderhead, that was the story. But yeah, that's the only one that really kind of stood out. There were other strange ones. There was one where a guy was writing a diary about all the things that him and his family did. But it was written in really broken English, which made it quite difficult to read. And I know a diary is written in shorthand and you don't tend to write full proper sentences in a diary because it's just for your own personal reading. But that did make it difficult to read and difficult to fully understand, and he'd use initials and abbreviations for things, but didn't explain what they were. So you couldn't kind of follow the story too well because it was almost like a whole new language. And although you can invent a new language in a novel, like Clockwork Orange, where you start reading it and you think, oh my goodness, I don't know what any of these words mean. By the end you do, because you're reading a whole novel. But a short story that's like 20 pages long, you don't really get a chance to immerse yourself in the language. So that one I found quite difficult to read. But like I say, sadly I didn't enjoy it, because from the blurb, the strange characters seemed like my kind of people, and I couldn't get into it. But I'm not saying don't read it, because short stories are always good to read, but I couldn't get into it, and I would have preferred the entire book to have been that one short story, The Escape from whatever it was that I said, Spiderhead. If a whole book could have been about that, I probably would have read it, but as a whole, they just didn't hit the mark for me. So quite sad that my last book for this challenge wasn't one that I enjoyed, but you never know when you start reading a book, do you? So that's it for this year's challenge. I can't believe it. There are links down below in the description to all of the other books that I've read for the challenge. So if you'd like to have a look at those, then you are more than welcome. And have a good day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.